Good evening, everyone. We had several teams go down this weekend, but our show hasn't, which starts right now. Everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Extra Point. I'm your host, Kate Woynerowski, and with me tonight, I have Leah Hart, Patrick Driscoll, Griffin Barfield, and Daniel Dungan. All right, everyone, let's do it. Let's get started. So let's get started with some college football pick'ems. So we're going to start with our first of two ranked matchups this weekend. We have number 12 BYU and number 25 Oregon. This is a really intriguing matchup, guys. What do you think?
Across the board.
BYU. All right. Leah, start us off.
I mean, I think they just had a huge win over Baylor last week in overtime. I think they're going to keep their momentum and get a huge win on the road this week.
Yeah, I got to go with the Cougars on this one. It's like, even though they're still traveling to Autzen, enemy lines, you know, you got Bo Nix with Oregon and whatnot, but BYU's they're more proven, I believe. They have more depth. I still think Oregon is kind of recovering from that embarrassment against Georgia, and I don't know. I just like the Cougars on this one.
BYU went to UCF and blew them out. They obviously don't have any affection with being away. Oregon's secondary looks a little bit iffy, especially with that Georgia onslaught that we saw a couple weeks ago. I like BYU. They took down a very, very good team in Baylor, and I think that they go 3-0 after this weekend.
I agree. BYU's proven themselves against tough opponents. All Oregon's done is crumble to Georgia and smack an FCS school.
No, very true. And it will be interesting to see how much Oregon does bounce back and if they can prove others wrong, right? So now let's move on. We've got another interesting matchup. We've got number 22 Penn State at Auburn. Guys, who takes this one? All right. Go first, Daniel.
I don't know. I'm just feeling it. It's the fourth time they've ever played each other, and it's the first time Penn State will play at Auburn. So I don't know. I'm feeling an Auburn upset.
All right. Griffin?
I picked Penn State. They had a very, very impressive win against Purdue week 0, was it? Week 0, and it was a very, very good win as well. Sean Clifford pulled out a huge win. He's a six-year player. And especially with players on the road that are that experienced, I don't see him having any problems against Auburn. I like Penn State, but in a close one.
Yeah, Griffin had a lot of good points there, and I'm also picking Penn State. Even though the SEC still is the king of college football, and Penn State is traveling at Auburn, Auburn, you know, they don't have the best quarterback situation. Sean Clifford, 6-year senior, he's been there before. You know, he's been in environments like this before, and he's just going to get it done. I think that Purdue win was just huge for the team this year, and Penn State's going to roll into Auburn and take the W.
Yeah, I'm picking Penn State too. Like the guy said, I think they had a huge win against Purdue a few weeks ago. I think they proved themselves to be one of the top teams in the college football, and I just feel like they just have the better team, they have better depth, and I think they can get a win on the road.
Yeah, I mean, all good analysis there. I mean, honestly, though, gosh, it feels like Sean Clifford's been there for, what, like 10 years? I mean, seriously. But moving on to that, we've got NC State, number 16 in the country, having Texas Tech come to Raleigh. Guys, this will be really interesting. Does NC State hold on to go undefeated? All right. Patrick, you got Texas Tech. All right,
I do.
go first with that.
This is just like one of those gut feeling picks. Texas Tech, they have an extremely explosive offense, very athletic quarterback in Donovan Smith. And yes, it is a night game at NC State. Texas Tech has never won in Raleigh. But like I said, I just love that explosive offense Texas Tech has, and I think they're going to make a statement.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I think NC State can't lose at home this week. They had a rough game last week against ECU, but I think if they can regroup and figure out their offense and also their defense as well, I think they were slacking a little bit last week, but I think they can get a huge home win this week.
I agree. I picked NC State as well. This is a huge statement year, especially if you're an NC State fan. Texas Tech had a big win last week against Houston in overtime. But I think there's something different in NC State, especially a night game. They have their home field advantage. I just feel like, especially in the ACC, when there's teams like Miami, there's teams like Clemson, NC State's gonna have to chase them, and I think they get a win today or next week. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think NC State will get it. Both teams have beaten solid American Athletic Conference teams, so I'm just going to trust the AP poll on this one.
All right. Well, very intriguing matchup, and it will be interesting to see how it comes out on top. But moving on, we've got maybe a future of the Big Ten matchup. We've got number 11 Michigan State traveling to Washington. Guys, who takes this matchup? I'm curious about this one, really. Do we have a sweep?
We don't.
Griffin. What do we say about Washington?
Honestly, it's very hard, especially Michigan, almost East Coast team. You're going to the West. I like this Washington QB a lot. He's a very athletic dude. Something tells me Washington. I don't know. It's the same thing where I picked Florida over Utah 2 weeks ago. I think the Huskies get it done. It's a close one. I think it's a really fun one to watch. But I think Washington just pulls it out.
All right. Who wants to go?
I'll go. So the thing I'm really excited about this matchup is Griffin brought up Washington's quarterback. In fact, that quarterback is actually former IU quarterback Michael Penix Jr., and he is familiar with Michigan State and that defense. And that reason almost had me pick Washington, but I don't know. I just like Michigan State. I like what their program's been about the past couple years. I just think they're too good of a team. I think as long as they just contain Penix and the deep ball early on, their rushing attack will get it done. Michigan State doesn't have the best quarterback situation right now, but they have a great rushing attack, like I said earlier. Just better team, better players, better coach. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think Michigan State also gets the win on this one. I'm just trusting that since they're up high in the AP poll, they'll do pretty well. I don't know much about their football team, but hopefully they'll get an easy win on the road. I don't know, it might be close, but I'm putting my faith in Michigan State.
I'm going to stick with Michigan State. Neither team's really faced a tough opponent yet, but, Michigan State was strong last year, and I think they'll continue what they did last year.
Yeah, again, this is the future, right? When we have that Big Ten expansion, these are the types of matchups you will probably get. So Saturday night will be very interesting, to say the least. All right, now moving on to our final matchup and our final ranked matchup, we've got number 13 Miami going to College Station at number 24 Texas A&M. Guys, does Texas A&M get revenge for last week? No. Oh, okay. Patrick,
Yeah.
A&M.
These picks are different, but this is just another gut feeling one. I know RJ said something on the show about App State coming in against A&M, all angry after losing that close game against North Carolina. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going on this one. I don't know what Jimbo Fisher has told his team ever since losing to App State, but I just feel like they're going to come out hot. They're going to come out mean. They're at home. You know, they still will have their fans behind them, hopefully, but I think as long as they just come out the gates ready to go, locked in, I think they can make a statement and keep that season going.
All right. Daniel?
I'm going to go with Miami. A&M's offense last game, who did they play again? App State. Yeah, they looked messy. Couldn't get their defense off the field. App State had somewhere around 41 minutes of possession, which is very high. So I'm going to say Miami's going to win this one.
I agree with that. Texas A&M put two pretty lackluster offensive performances against App State and even Sam Houston State, and they were a FCS team last year, I believe. It comes down to that, and Texas A&M only scored a special teams touchdown last week. They have to get their offense going, but I don't think they get it going against a great team like Miami, a top 25 team. I think Miami gets it done, especially in College Station.
Yeah, I'm picking Miami too. I think last week for Texas A&M, it kind of showed how vulnerable they were this year. They're kind of either good at some times, their offense could get going, but as we saw last week, it just couldn't get going. They were struggling on offense, and their defense was being outplayed. So I'm picking Miami for this one. I think they have the better team. They're just going to get a good away win.
All right. Well, it definitely will be interesting to see how Miami basically goes against a tough team like Texas A&M. I mean, you could argue they're not the same team as they've been, but this is like their first quality opponent, right? So it'll definitely be interesting to see how Miami matches up with Jimbo Fisher's Aggies. All right, now moving on to the hashtag game. So bring us your best hashtag. So we're going to start with Nebraska finally firing Scott Frost, their head coach, after losing to Georgia Southern last weekend. Guys, what are your hashtags for this? All right, Griffin, do we want to explain this hashtag?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are celebrating Scott Frost being fired. He didn't do well from the start. Nebraska had very bad season since he left UCF. I feel like it's the right call. He's lost a lot of games that should have gone the other way towards the Cornhuskers. And I think that greener grasses are ahead for Nebraska.
All right. About time, huh?
About time. The thing is with Frost, 2 weeks ago when I was on the show, we were already talking about his job being in jeopardy with the questionable calls and whatnot. And then what does he do? He loses to Georgia Southern at home in front of all of the fans, and it was just a complete nightmare for the program. It's about time to go. I mean, it seemed like a fairy tale story. You get hired by your alma mater and whatnot, but, you know, you just brought the program down to new lows, and it's time for him to go. About time.
I went with about time also. Great minds think alike. He has not had a winning season since 2017 with UCF, and that was his only winning season. So
it was a national championship, though.
Yeah, but every other season he couldn't pass 6 wins. It was about time for him.
I said it was the right move. It was a great decision. I just think that they need to restart, kind of regroup, just let that loss last week, keep it behind them and just move on.
Yeah, and speaking of that loss, they lost to Georgia Southern, who was actually one of 3 Sun Belt teams to actually beat someone, have a huge upset this weekend. Those being Marshall beating Notre Dame, Georgia Southern taking down Nebraska, and finally Appalachian State beating Texas A&M. So guys, what are your hashtags for the 3 upsets by Sun Belt teams this weekend? Leah, Power 5?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Sun Belt Conference is becoming more noticeable, especially from last week. If they continue to do it, they're not going to become a Power 5 conference, but they're pretty much up there.
So I went with hashtag on the rise. The Sun Belt isn't playing around anymore. They were founded in 2001. Their first top 25 ranked team was in 2016. 2020, they had 2 teams finish in the AP top 25. And you just look at last week and you're just like, wow, where did this come from? But I mean, it's been a slow, steady progress for the conference. Teams like App State, Coastal Carolina, Marshall, all of them, they're just going to keep trending upwards, and that's what we're going to see in the next couple of years. So good job, Sunbelt.
Likewise, my hashtag is respect the belt. A lot of these new teams are getting a lot more recognition, and I love it. Coastal Carolina and Marshall have had very good seasons in the last recent years. They've gone undefeated for a long period of time. We're seeing App State upset a lot of teams. They went toe-to-toe with North Carolina. They dropped 40 in a quarter, which is incredible to see. I've never seen anything like that. I like this. I like them a lot. It's a really exciting division, and they can pull off a lot of upsets in the top 25, so respect the belt.
I went with hashtag Power 6. That's a title the American Athletic Conference likes to use a lot about themselves. But, the American hasn't won their high-profile matchups, and the Sun Belt has, so they are legit.
I guess you could say they are legit. I mean, you're absolutely right. They've got a case to be another power conference, right? So it will be exciting. I think it's really exciting, especially to see these smaller schools like Marshall, Appalachian State just take down all these big-name schools now, especially in the face of the NIL as well. So I think it's going to be really fun to watch the next couple of years. So I'm excited. All right, moving on from college football to Major League Baseball. We have a new rule implemented by Major League Baseball in that there will now be a pitching clock to shorten game length times. Guys, what are your hashtags for this? Go, Daniel.
Oh my God. Okay, so I went with hashtag ratings, ? I guess this is supposed to cut back on how long the game goes, which might get more people interested to sit and watch the full length of the game. So maybe the ratings in 5-6 years might go up.
I said hashtag yes. I mean, pretty simple. So they changed the pitch clock, so now every 15 seconds when there's no one on base, and then every 20 seconds when there's a man on base. And I like the call. It helps a lot of people who don't know a lot about baseball, and they think it's just a long sport like watching grass grow. It allows more activity into the game, and I like it because I read a stat that the Braves closer Kenley Jansen takes about 30 seconds between each pitch when no one's on base. That's just unnecessary time, and I like the fact that pitches are thrown more and more. And I've been to a minor league game when the pitch count was used, and I thought it was very efficient, so I agree. Yes.
Hashtag play ball. Yeah, Griffin had a lot of good points. While it's going to be pretty interesting, I've already seen how the leagues reacted to it a little bit. I know the MLB vets are not too happy about it. Obviously, he brought up Jansen and how long it takes for him to get going on the mound. But, I mean, it's just good for the sport overall. The younger half of the league, like Griffin also said, the minor leagues have been dabbling around with it here and there. So they're used to it. They're going to be just fine with it. So as time progresses, this will just be great for the MLB itself. Hopefully it gets more people to come out to watch some ball games. And yeah, I like the move a lot.
Mine was hashtag let's get the show on the road. I think baseball games are as long, just too long for my liking. I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but when I do sit down and watch, it's a little too long. And I know I watch a little bit of tennis, so when they implemented the serve clock, it definitely made it more exciting. And hopefully the MLB gets more ratings, does the same. More people want to watch the games, even the regular season ones, because those might go on for a while longer than the playoff ones, which are obviously more exciting. So hopefully this new pitch clock can do some good for the MLB.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting, and that's a really good point you made there, Leah, about tennis having a clock as well, and it definitely has helped. So I think it will be interesting to see if it does benefit baseball as well. So we'll definitely be talking about baseball a lot more, especially as we're going down to the playoffs soon. So we'll be covering that. So moving on now to the NFL. So the Colts actually waived kicker Rodrigo Blankenship, who was known as the Georgia kicker, the infamous one, who actually happened to miss a 42-yarder to tie the Texans the other day. So guys, what are your hashtags on this? All right, Patrick, go ahead.
Hashtag goodbye goggles. Obviously everyone knows. It's like so many people don't even know Rodrigo Blankenship's name. They're like, oh yeah, that kicker with the goggles. But yeah, that's him. While he was a fan favorite because of the goggles, this is the NFL. This is the best football league in the world. Nothing's guaranteed. And when you step, it's easier said than done. I'm just sitting here talking about it, but when you step on the line and the game's on the line, you got to kick a 40-yarder for the win in the NFL, you got to get it done. And sometimes you'll just get the boot if you can't produce results, and that's exactly what happened with Mr. Blankenship. So, adios.
I guess I'll go. I said hashtag bad move. I don't know. I don't know his past trends. I don't know if he was amazing or what, but I just don't know if, getting rid of him in the first week was the best move for them. Missing one field goal isn't the end of the world. I know it could have been a great way to start the season, but maybe keep him around for a little bit, see if he improves. I don't know, that's just my opinion.
I think it's bittersweet that Rodrigo Blankenship got cut. It's obviously sad because he's a fan favorite. He's got the goggles. When he was drafted, he was playing with Legos, so there's a relatable moment there. But it was the right decision by the Colts. He missed a field goal that should have given the Colts a win. He kicked 2 kickoffs out of bounds. He declined a little bit. He got hurt last year, so it's questionable. And especially with a Colts team that we have talked a lot about, that they could go far in the playoffs, every point counts, especially when it comes to the playoffs. And if you can't produce, like Patrick said, you're no good. So I'm sorry, Mr. Blankenship, but it's the best of the best, and you have to produce.
I said hashtag good business decision. I looked at his stats, and I believe the website I was looking at was correct, but it said that he only made one 50-plus yard field goal in his 3 seasons. And then ever since he had that hip injury, his percentage has declined to sub 70%. It's just not good. It was about time for him to leave.
Yep, I would agree with that. Goggles, you will be missed sincerely in the NFL. That's okay. All right, let's move on to some pick'ems now. We're going to start with the Commanders at the Lions. Guys, who do you have for this matchup? All right, Leah, go ahead. Why the Commanders?
Yeah, I got the Commanders. I feel like everybody was a little bit uneasy seeing Carson Wentz again, trying to see if he's coming back. But, I think he's pretty much back. I don't know if that is going to be very true this week, but I'm still picking them. I think he showed some extreme improvement, and they have offensive weapons like Terry McLaurin, and Antonio Gibson is good at running the ball, having that pass option to him. I just think their offense is too strong for this week, so I think they get the win.
Yeah, I have to go with the Commanders as well. I did like how the Lions looked at times last week, but new look for the Commanders, new guys around. Like, they have Scary Terry, they have Antonio Gibson. But the most intriguing thing about the Commanders are the two new weapons they got, which were Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson. They looked great last week. Curtis Samuel looked like a Debo Samuel type player last week, and Dotson had 2 touchdowns, I'm pretty sure. And Washington also just has a very solid defense, so I like Washington.
Give me the Cardiac Cats. I love Detroit. I love them. I love them in this game, and here's why. They put 30-plus points on a great Eagles defense. I know they got 38 put on them, but that Eagles team looks very good. We'll get to that later. I like the Lions' offense. Jared Goff, you got a 2 running back set in DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. A good wide receiver core. Amon-Ra St. Brown scored last week. T.J. Hawkins needs to get back in there a little bit more. I think Dan Campbell has got something going. This is going to be a fun one, but I think the Lions get this one in a very close game.
I'm going to go with the Lions, too. I like the Hard Knocks football, and I'm a fan of Dan Campbell. That offense, Jared Goff just needs to put the ball in his playmakers' hands, and they'll push it through, I think.
All right. So we're split. Definitely will be an interesting matchup, and for my sake, I hope Carson Wentz can step up and not disappoint me this weekend. All right, moving on. We've got an undefeated matchup coming here. We've got the Buccaneers at the Saints. Guys, who do you have taking this one? All right, Leah.
I got the Bucs in this one. I mean, Tom Brady didn't look his best last week. That's just how it's going to be in the first week of the NFL. But I think Julio Jones stepped up really big. I think people didn't expect him after being hurt, after being on the Titans. I feel like he didn't get it going on the Titans. So I think he stepped up huge, especially Mike Evans with that one-handed touchdown catch. I think that was huge for them. And their defense only allowed 3 points. I know the Cowboys' offense couldn't really get it going, but it's because of the Bucs' great defense. So I don't think the Saints are going to be able to get it going because of that defense and how strong it is. So I got the Bucs in this one.
I also have Tampa Bay. Originally, this is going to be a pretty short explanation on why they're going to win, but they do have some guys on the injury report, including Leonard Fournette, Julio Jones, Chris Godwin. Those are the 3 that came to my mind first. But at the end of the day, it just shows that they have depth, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they do have the GOAT under center. Tampa Bay, they looked crisp against Dallas, only held them to 3 points, so I got Tampa Bay. They're just a great football team overall.
I got Tampa Bay again. Patrick made some great points, especially about the defense. The Cowboys were the only team to not score a touchdown this week, and that was because of that Bucs defense. Everyone has forgotten how great it was. It put Patrick Mahomes to the test in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. And I like him a lot. I think Tom Brady gets it done. He'll get it done with any weapon, and especially for the fact that he still has at least Mike Evans. I think that's at least one great part. I like the Bucs in this one, but don't underestimate Jameis Winston.
The Saints are the Bucs' kryptonite. Last year, they beat them with Trevor Siemian at the helm. So now they have Michael Thomas back. They have Jameis Winston back, and they're all healthy and ready to play. That defense only got better this offseason. I think the Saints will pull it out.
All right. Definitely will be interesting to see there, especially given the Bucs' struggles against the Saints recently. All right, now let's move on to the Panthers at the Giants. Guys, can the Giants continue to do well? Leah?
Yeah, I'm picking the Giants. I don't know, it was a little questionable for this pick, but I mean, everybody kind of thought that the Panthers were going to get an easy win against the Browns last week because they just got Baker Mayfield. It was going up against his old team, but I think it was kind of surprising seeing the Browns come out with the win. So I don't know. The Panthers are kind of looking a little uneasy, a little questionable. So I think I'm just going to go with the home team here. Daniel Jones, he can get it back. He had a pretty solid week last week, but I think he can get it going at home.
I'm I'm also rocking with the G-men on this one. The Panthers basically just looked like meh last week. Baker, it's Baker. Pretty self-explanatory. And the one big thing about the Giants, Saquon looked excellent last week. He tore it up. There were many doubters about how he was going to perform this year, talking about like injuries and durability and whatnot. But we can't forget, like, he's still like 24, 25 years old in the prime of his career, regardless of an ACL tear. I like the way the Giants looked last week, and I think they're going to keep it up this week.
Giants. They're my team. So maybe a little biased, but I honestly thought that they were going to get blown out by Tennessee last week, and they pulled it out. Saquon looked great. Their wide receiving core looks great. They need to get Kadarius Toney in the offense a little bit more. The Panther offense started heating up as of late, but I think the Giants just pull it out and they go 2-0.
Going with the G-men. Panthers O-line last season ranked second worst according to Pro Football Focus, and they did not look much better last weekend. So Giants will take care of business like they did against the Titans, which was shocking.
It really was shocking in my honest opinion too. In fact, the NFC East suddenly looks interesting and looks competitive for once. So we'll see how that turns out in like 2-3 weeks. All right, now moving on, we've got the Patriots at the Steelers. Guys, can the Patriots rebound from last week? All right, Griffin says no. Why?
I picked the Steelers. There's a lot of questions about both sides injury-wise. Najee Harris is very iffy with his injury. TJ Watt is out. But on the other side, Mac Jones is a little bit iffy with his back. I think especially with a little injury, I think the Steelers defense, even without TJ Watt, gets to him. I like this one to be low. I think it's a low-scoring game. And I think the Steelers offense finally gets it going. They struggled a little bit last week against the Bengals. I like Steelers.
Once again, I don't know. Steelers. We're going to go with the Steelers on this one. You got two great head coaches in Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin. But the Patriots last week, I just didn't like the way they looked. I think even without Najee, Pittsburgh will be all right. They forced Joe Burrow to turn the ball over 3 or 4 times last week. You're talking about the reigning AFC champions, the Bengals, and the Steelers defense came out and balled out. They got no excuse not to do against New England this week, so I got Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm choosing the Pats this week. They're my team. Might be a little biased, but last week was a tough week. I think we can rebound from that. I think once we get started in a rhythm, I think Mac Jones, if he throws a few short balls, and then he'll just keep it going. But Kendrick Bourne didn't start last week, so I think if he gets a start this week, he'll be an intense offensive weapon. He was a great pickup last year, and he made such a difference, especially even making the playoffs last year. And I just feel like I don't know. I have faith in them to win in a close one. Get the win on the road. I think it's possible for them.
I was very close to picking the Steelers, but I cannot wear this jersey and not pick the Patriots. I'll say by 3 at least. But
all right.
Yeah, they didn't look great, but I think they'll rebound, come back, and figure out this offensive struggle.
All right. Well, definitely shall be interesting. And then we've got another undefeated matchup. We've got the Dolphins at the Ravens. So, guys, who do you have for this one? All right, Leah, go.
I got the Ravens in this one. Lamar Jackson looked so good last week. He had 3 touchdowns, I think. So I just think their offense is just too good to lose this game. I don't know. I just have faith in them. They're getting it back. Lamar Jackson can run all over the defense whenever he wants to. So, and then he has a great tight end of Mark Andrews as a great weapon too. So I think they get it done.
This one was probably like the most torn I was in making a decision because I am like a huge Lamar fan. I just love the way he plays. I love how he's just such a playmaker. It doesn't matter who's on his squad. But I was so impressed by the Dolphins last week. I loved the way they used Tyreek Hill last week. I thought Tua was pretty solid. I don't know. This is just another gut feeling one. I think Miami's going to come in. I think Tyreek Hill is going to make some plays, and they're going to pull off what I think will be an upset next week.
I'm glad Daniel, Leah, and I are on the same page. And Lamar, we trust. I like the Ravens in this one. Lamar Jackson is going to prove why he's one of the best and why the Ravens should have paid him. I think that he'll just show that he's miles above the caliber of Tua. I think that especially that J.K. Dobbins is back in this lineup. He hasn't really proved himself. And I think this Ravens defense is going to give Tua a lot more struggle. Give me the Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, they're just a better team offensively and defensively. Yeah, that's it, pretty much.
Well, that definitely will be an interesting matchup, especially between two young quarterbacks in Tua and Lamar. So now for our Monday Night Football matchup, we've got the Vikings and the Eagles. So guys, just write your team on the whiteboard, no explanations. We've got the Vikings, we got an Eagles, we got a Vikings, and the Eagles. All right, we are split, so that will be a fun Monday night matchup. So that's our show. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on The Extra Point.